Welcome to this session about Chatter and iBeacons. We're excited today to talk to you about iBeacon technology and how we can tie iBeacon technology into the platform. So super excited to be here. The one thing that we need to start with is a safe harbor, so any forward-looking statements that we make today, not that we're going to make any, don't make any business decisions based on those. Just to give you a quick introduction of myself, I'm John Gifford, Technical Solution Architect with Salesforce.com Services. I work for the mobile practice, so I deliver a lot of really cool mobile applications, anywhere from retail to manufacturing to life sciences. We've done it all. So great practice to work in, and very excited to be part of Salesforce Services. Also, as a special treat today, we have a special guest with us today, Cody Singleton, and I'll give him a chance to just introduce himself real quick from Blue Cats.
Hi, my name's Cody Singleton. Like you said, I'm from Blue Cats. We have offices in Sydney, Austin, and Huntsville, Alabama, and we do proximity as a service, so iBeacons are our life.
Great, thank you. So Cody's going to talk to us a little bit about their hardware and their application that we're using in the application today that we're going to be talking about, and he'll be doing that a little bit later in the presentation. Also, I want to note that we're giving away some free Beacon starter packs, compliments of Blue Cats. So it's not a Salesforce-related giveaway, but Blue Cats has been kind to donate a few of these to us to give away. We'll be asking a few quiz questions at the end, so pay attention, and you might walk away with one of these great starter kits. So the application that we're going to be talking about today is an application that I built called Chatter Check-In. So if you can think about it as an application for checking into Chatter like Foursquare Check-In or Facebook Check-In. And I'm going to give a demonstration of this application in a minute here, but let me just talk about a few cool things with the application and what we're using. So we're using the Salesforce Chatter API. We're using some geolocation to look up your location information to check in with. You can tag your coworkers, check your feed, and we're also later on going to talk about how we can do iBeacon integration. So let me switch over to give you a quick demonstration of this app. See if I press the right button here. All right. So like I said, this application uses geolocation to look up the location of where you're at. So you can check in, in this particular location. You can see that it notices that we're here at the Moscone West. I can also, by tapping the buttons on the bottom here, look at my feed. I don't have anything posted yet, but when I do, it will show up in the feed there. I'm going to just check in here and say I'm having a great time at Dreamforce. Okay. And the perfectionist in me has to capitalize that. Let's go ahead and also check who I'm with. So I'm with Cody. I'm sure Batman is in the audience there somewhere, so I'll check in with him. And we'll go ahead and hit post. So it says me and Cody and thousands of other people are here. And if I look at my Chatter feed, it shows me that I've checked in. So this application does a great job. It's a simple application, but it does a great job for our purposes. And we're using this use case here today to talk about what iBeacons can do and what they're capable of. But before we get started in talking about that, let's just talk a little bit about ways that you can think about building mobile applications on the platform. How many here have used the Salesforce Mobile SDK? The lights are blinding, so I'll take it that a few of you have used it. So there's great ways that you can build a mobile application for your business. You can use Salesforce One mobile application out of the box, and through configuration, build employee-facing applications. You can use Salesforce services or your internal developers to build custom mobile applications. And there's numerous ways that you can also build mobile applications on the Salesforce One platform using communities and so forth. For this application, of course, we use the Salesforce mobile SDK. So just to give a quick plug about that, you can find it on GitHub. And the great thing I like about the mobile SDK is it's open source. So you can customize it to your heart's content, and you can also correct any issues that you need to without waiting for the support team to fix those for you if you discover issues. We also have a great team of developers that are constantly working on and building the Salesforce mobile SDK. So chances are, if you find a bug, they've already started working on it. When you look at the strategy of building a mobile application, you really want to think about, am I going to build this fully native, and am I build it hybrid, or is it going to be an HTML5 app that's hosted on customer communities or the Salesforce platform in the cloud? And really, if you're thinking about the strategy of a mobile application, you want to ask yourself, is it going to be primarily available offline, or am I going to have connectivity? And that'll help you in deciding whether you're going to make it native or hybrid or a variation of both. And we've done successful applications all across the board, from fully customized native experiences to HTML5 applications that deliver content from customer communities. So what else does the mobile SDK offer? It offers authentication to Salesforce, so you can make that secure connection and handshake with Salesforce. It also offers you all of the API wrappers that Salesforce has standard in it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel in your mobile application. You can quickly spin up mobile applications. And for those of you that have tried the Salesforce mobile SDK, you'll know that the template applications allow you to connect to Salesforce very quickly. So talking a little bit about a mobile app strategy, we know the tools that we need to use. We know the SDKs that we need to use. We've figured out whether this is going to be, whether it's going to be hybrid or offline or online or fully customized. Taking that next step is really thinking about the components of a mobile application and how we're going to make this mobile application great. How are we going to set it apart from applications that are out there? So I've listed kind of the 5 main components of a mobile application that will make your app successful. And what we want to focus on today in our app strategy is really making the application more personal. And how can we do that? If we're thinking about different things like Chatter, so we've done some social and some personal aspects of our application with Chatter. We can also think about using exact target push notifications to make it more personal. But what if we could even fine-tune that more and personalize our application with location services? So in looking at location services, we want to decide what is it we're going to use to locate our application. So we want to make this Chatter check-in more personal. What if we're, and I actually had this issue with the application earlier, if we're in a building where we don't have access to the GPS satellites that are out there, we're going to still need to figure out what our location is. So if we look at the traditional methods of location services, we're looking at GPS and Wi-Fi. There's some great things about GPS and Wi-Fi for location services that allow us to find out where, or to make our applications location aware. But there's also some drawbacks. So there's some gaps in where those things leave off. So for example, GPS location services consume a lot of battery. If you're locating them quite often, it's going to use up a lot of battery. GPS doesn't work well indoors, like I mentioned before. GPS accuracy range is limited. Wi-Fi requires that somebody connects to your Wi-Fi network if they want to find their location. So there's a lot of downsides to using these, although they're very good ways of doing location. So that's really where iBeacons picks up, is where GPS and Wi-Fi for location services leaves off. Because it gives you the ability to get accuracy within a few feet, and we can get right down to where that iBeacon is located. It also is energy efficient because it uses Bluetooth low energy protocol. It's available indoors, so we don't have to have a GPS signal. And we can really customize our user experience and make our application more personal using iBeacons. How many people have used iBeacons or implemented iBeacons? Oh, great. Great. So we have some experience in the crowd. That's very good to see. And to me, it's an exciting technology, a new and emerging technology, but very exciting to see that people are taking advantage of this. So with Beacons and combining that with Salesforce One, really what we can offer is all 5 of those categories that I talked about before, and really making our application more personal and giving that greater rich experience to your mobile application, depending on your use case. So what I want to do is step back a little bit and talk about what iBeacons are and really get an understanding of iBeacons. Because a few of you have had experience with iBeacons, but a lot of us have not. So, what are they and how do we use them? The key to understanding iBeacons is, like I said, to understand what they are and what they aren't. An iBeacon is an intelligent device in that it can identify itself, but it doesn't give you application functionality unless you build that functionality into your application. So a Bluetooth, so an iBeacon, and I'm holding one up right here. An iBeacon is just a little hardware device. I'm actually holding the black one that you see up on the screen there. And you place this iBeacon where you want to an application to receive a signal from it. So the iBeacon is constantly broadcasting a signal. And it's up to your application to pick up that signal, identify that iBeacon, and then decide what to do with it from there, whether it reaches out to web services to figure that out or whether that functionality is built into the application. The way that you can identify an iBeacon is through 3 major keys, if you will. A UUID, a major key, and a minor key. So the 3 identifiers to tell you what beacon you've come within range. It's also important to understand the different ranges for iBeacons. So we can understand how far people are away from our iBeacon or where they're located based on how close they are to it. So if they're far away from it, which is at a range of about 150-foot radius, they can pick up the iBeacon and sense that it's in the general area. Your application can interact with that far range and do something with it. Or we can wait until they get really close to the beacon using near or an immediate range. Immediate, which is within a few feet to within a few inches of the device itself. So we can really hone in on what the location of that user is based on those different ranges. It's also important to understand that iBeacons are a hardware device, so they require installation. As you can see in the pictures up here, we're installing iBeacons in the entry of a store. So in this particular use case, we're using them to determine when customers are walking into our store. Just like with the Chatter check-in application, if somebody walks into this conference room and we want to have them check into this session, we would install it at the entrance of the store. It's also important in your iBeacon implementation that you really play around with the placement of the iBeacon. So there's environmental factors that can interfere with the signal. Glass and metal as you see there. So are we going to install these just above people's heads as they walk in? Are we going to install them, at walking height? Those are really things that you'll need to, test depending on your iBeacon implementation. The other thing is, as I was talking just briefly before this, people tend to steal iBeacons at times, so you want to make sure that they're hidden and out of sight. So let's go to just a live demo of how iBeacons work. So going back to the Chatter check-in application. So I'm coming into the conference room here, and we've got an iBeacon that's placed at the door of the conference room. So as I'm walking in, I might receive, based on my location, that I've walked into this session. So it says, I've taken the iBeacon, I've brought it close here to demonstrate that, and it says, thank you for visiting. Would you like to post this session to Chatter? So here I'm just going to hit yes to post it to Chatter. It posts it, and then if I go to my Chatter feed there, it says that I've now checked in at location-aware mobile apps with Chatter and iBeacon. So just a simple demonstration or simple use case where I've taken the beacon, brought it within range of the application, as if I was walking through the door, and by connecting that experience with Salesforce, I'm able to post to Salesforce on my behalf. Let me switch back over to my presentation here. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture, because we're all developers here. We're wanting to understand how this all works. So just a little bit about the architecture of how an iBeacon works and how it interacts. So so an iBeacon is a hardware device, like I talked about, and it could be placed anywhere. When our application comes within range of that device, it's going to pick up that device and decide what to do with it, whether that's programmed into the application itself or whether it reaches out to an admin console that Cody is going to show us here in a minute, or whether it reaches out to Salesforce One to identify that beacon. So let's go ahead and, with that, I'm going to switch over to the admin console and have Cody give us a quick demonstration of that.
Cool.
Okay.
Nice. Thanks, John. Yeah, so again, I'm from Blue Cats, and like I said, we do proximity as a service. What does that mean in terms of iBeacon? Basically, the idea is we deliver hardware, which is the beacons that you see here, as long as some other form factors. We give you SDKs. We have an SDK for iOS, Android, maybe something else if you ask for it. And then along with that, we also have a PhoneGap plugin that can utilize those SDKs. And then we even have an extension available now for Salesforce that can send beacon interactions from the phone to your Salesforce account. Pretty neat stuff. So that's the hardware level or beacon level, the mobile level, and then in the cloud we have API, some other stuff, and then this web platform that allows you to manage your beacons. What does it mean to manage your beacons? There's all kinds of settings on iBeacons, beacons in general, that you can change. You can change the transmit power, so like John was saying, how far does it send its signal? You can change its advertising interval, which means basically it'll send that signal less often or broadcast less often. There's all kinds of battery trade-offs. How long will your batteries last given these settings? In general, most of these beacons will range, the battery life will be from a year to 7 years, just based on your environment and the settings you choose. That's a long time. Okay, so back to the console. So what we've got here is just an app screen. Basically, you've gone in and we've selected that we're in Team Salesforce, as you can see on the upper right-hand corner here. We've created a new app. By creating an app, you get assigned an app token that you can use within the SDK. The app token is what identifies the app whenever it calls into our APIs. The next thing you can do is you can create a site. A site is a grouping of beacons. So you may go to a retail store, for instance, and in the retail store maybe there's 10, 15, 20 beacons. Most of those would all be assigned to the same site. Therefore, they get the same address. And the address gives us information within the SDK to sort of pre-cache the beacons, have the context information for a beacon available when the device arrives in the store. Then we can look at the beacons. In this account, we have 3 beacons. The ones that you've seen here, or you can see here, is a blue beacon, a black beacon, and a white beacon. That's what comes in our starter packs. Our starter packs are just something to get you started. Basically, we've given them these categories. You can give a beacon any kind of category, any kind of context that you want. For instance, maybe you would give a beacon the chips category in a grocery store. Then that beacon, whenever you receive that beacon, you see, hey, this is a chips beacon. I can react to it with an advertisement, a local notification, just any kind of messaging that you want, chatter, message, all kinds of options. Let's see. I think that's it, John.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So Cody's just shown us here how we can manage our beacons with their admin console that they've put together. So we can see what beacons we have available, what the settings are for the beacons, what the health status of the beacons are, and what categories we set up for the beacons. Let's take a look into the code now and see how we handle these beacons based on the information that's coming back to us. So if we go to Xcode here, and I think project is closed. 1 second. Okay. Is that really small? It is, and I don't know how to zoom in. So let me just walk through it, and I'll make the code available afterwards. But in our application delegate method,
Try window at the top. Sorry.
Which one?
Right here. That's okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So within our application delegate method, actually, let me just try one more thing here to make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Is that a little bit better? Yeah. Okay, very good. Sorry about that. So within our application delegate method for application did finish launching, I've called a helper class that I've created, a convenience method that I've created, that will initialize the Blue Cats SDK. So within this init Blue Cats method, I've called start purring with app token, and I've taken that app token from the application settings that Cody showed you earlier within the admin console. So that application token identifies or gives authentication for this application to actually connect with Blue Cats and determine, the identity of these beacons. Otherwise, just anybody could detect the beacons and do something with them. So this makes the beacons secure in that not just anybody can, interact with them and decide what to do with them. Some of these methods in here go through and just determine, some of the decision structure in here goes through and just determines if the network connection is available. These particular beacons require that you connect at least once to the internet to pull down information and cache information from the beacons. It also detects if there's a Bluetooth connection available, which is important because without Bluetooth you can't detect the beacons within range. I also want to point out that within, let me go over to the info settings. So if you've played around with Bluetooth stuff in iOS 8, they have new strings in the plist settings that are required in order to enable beacon ranging. So this NS location always usage description and NS location when in use usage description are required to be set up. So you're basically telling the user why it is that you're detecting their location information. So I've just said that Chatter check-in uses location service to display beacons around you. That is required in iOS 8 or you won't start ranging beacons. So something that's important to remember. So that's really it. Once I've initialized the Blue Cats SDK, it's ready to start listening for beacons. When a beacon is found or a beacon region is found because it's detected a number of beacons, it's going to fire some delegate methods. And if we go down here to did update microlocations, this is a delegate method within the Blue Cats SDK that basically fires every time a beacon is ranging or within range. So once it comes into this method, I detect what the site ID is and determine that what beacons I'm supposed to be looking for within that site. And then the beacons, because there can be one beacon or multiple beacons within a particular site, the beacons come in as an array. So I'm going to grab an array of beacons and I'm going to iterate through that array in this for loop here. What I'm looking for in particular is a category for a beacon. So the category that I've set up is just very generic categories, like white beacon or blue beacon or black beacon. You could set up the categories to be, this Dreamforce session, or Moscone West, or Moscone North or South, or whatever categories you wanted to set up. So once I've found the white beacon, or detected that the white beacon is within range, I'm going to post a local notification that says, thank you for attending, or that basically sets up the post to Chatter. So when that local notification fires, it pops a notification within the app. Once I click yes that I want to post that information to Chatter, it fires this other method that I've created here called post, which sets up the message that it's going to post to Chatter. So it's using the standard Chatter APIs. I've done really nothing special here. I set up the message. I've added parameters for it to decide who I'm checked in with if I need to, and then I go ahead and send the post to Chatter. So really pretty straightforward implementation of Salesforce Chatter, posting to Salesforce Chatter and iBeacons. So the one thing I want to talk about next is, and I've just shown a basic implementation of connecting to an iBeacon and posting to Chatter based on your location. But there's so many other things that you can do. This really opens up the world of possibility to really gain greater insights to your customers. So it's really important that you gather as much information as you can for those that have opted into using beacons within your application. So we just heard about Analytics Cloud, some great new tools for getting information into Salesforce. I would leverage those tools and take advantage of the beacons that you have in place to gain greater insights. If you're looking at the retail scenario, we want to know what stores are people visiting, how often are they visiting, how many people in a particular day. Within our stores, if we wanted to get even more detailed into it, we want to know what areas within the store are they hanging out most? Are they hanging out by the coats or the blue jeans, or how is our layout of our store impacted, and we can get that insight with Salesforce. So it's really important to make sure that you gather that information. If you look at it from like a service type scenario, if the service guy is going out to service a particular machine, you could have beacons within that machine that detect that they have arrived and interact with your beacon in a certain way. And you're gathering that information behind the scenes as well. So with that, I just want to end in talking about the best practices for iBeacons and kind of summarize everything that we've talked about today. So there's a lot more that we could learn about iBeacons. We could spend a long time talking about them. We don't have that much time here, but it's important to have these key takeaways. Remember that iBeacons require installation. So it's a hardware device that requires installation out in the field. And you want to consider where you're placing those iBeacons. So really play around with that. Not just place the iBeacons and walk around like a developer with the app in your hand waiting for something to happen, but put the app in your pocket and walk around like you're a consumer or you're somebody that's really using that application. And I bring that scenario up because we noticed that in our retail implementation of iBeacons, that we were doing just that. I was eagerly waiting for something to happen as I was passing a store going into the store. But to really get the context of the end user or consumer, you want to make sure you're testing it out the way that they would test it out. So test your user experience, test it thoroughly, look at environmental impacts to your iBeacon signal. The other thing is to keep in mind is to not be overly intrusive. So iBeacons they come with this stigma that Big Brother is watching me, right? That all of this information is being gathered about me. And it's important that we are responsible in our implementation of iBeacons, and that we think about how we're going to message our clients. and not just gather information about them or not just send them promotions, but also offer them value in using our application. Give them a reason to want to turn on that feature and enable Bluetooth in your application. So, really add value. And then also capture iBeacon data. You're missing out the opportunity of using iBeacons if you're just using it to send notifications. What's really important and really valuable to you is to leverage the power of Salesforce and leverage the power of iBeacons to gather more information about your customers. And then be creative and have fun. It's very exciting, new emerging technology. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. I would love to, you can pick up my business card, and I would love to hear the use cases that you are using with iBeacon implementations or thinking about using. So be creative and have fun. So with that, we're going to turn it over to questions. If you have a question and you can come to the mic in the center, then we'll get your voice on the recording. First of all, before we have you ask a question, I've got 2 quiz questions to see if you guys were paying attention. It's kind of hard to see, so you might have to stand down there and let me know. So we're going to give away 2 of these Beacon starter packs for 2 questions that we have here. So Cody's going to watch for the first hand that goes up. So the first question is, what are the 3 main identifiers of an iBeacon?
Go ahead.
The UUID, the major, and the minor.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Isn't there actually another value as well?
There might be, depending on the iBeacon manufacturer, but those are the 3 main ones, right?
That's all that has to do with iBeacon.
What's that?
That's everything that has to do with iBeacon.
Cool.
It's not really an identifier, though. That just gives you a signal strength value. So as you move closer or further away from a beacon, that goes up and down. But it's not unique to any one beacon.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, great. So the next question is, what are the 3 ranges of an iBeacon?
Here we go.
Near, never mind, I'll let you. Near, far, and...
So close.
You can have a question in a minute. This guy was next, I think. Perfect.
Okay. Great.
There's actually a 4th one called unknown, but, that's...
Called unknown?
Unknown.
Okay. So we'll open it up to questions, and we have the first 4 people that ask questions that don't have a pack will get another starter pack. So go ahead.
Can you explain again, so for someone to interact with the beacon, do they have to have already opted in or enabled some sort of a setting? Or if someone walks into a store and doesn't have an app or anything, will you be able to push them notifications and stuff like that?
So yeah, they do have to opt in. So when the setting that I showed you for iOS 8, that is a message that actually pops up to the user saying that this application is going to range beacons. So they have to opt in order for that to work. They also have to have Bluetooth on, and depending on whatever else your application requires to function, depending on your use case, they will have to opt into those things in order for it to work properly, yes.
There's also some built-in apps that already use beacons, so it may not have to be a third-party app installed, something like Passbook.
Yeah, so my question was regarding platforms. I noticed everything was revolved around iPhones, but I was wondering if there's any emerging open source support for things like microcontrollers like the Raspberry Pi or Android, or even a desktop implementation for iBeacon.
So yeah, I'll take the first part of that.
Okay.
As far as what we showed here today, we showed an iOS application.
Yeah.
But we've also done the same retail implementation with an Android application, so there's an SDK for that. We did full Android, same functionality capabilities as we did with the iOS application, which was really awesome.
Awesome.
As far as anything else, I'm going to hand that over to Cody, because I haven't done anything else with anything.
Yeah, what we like to say is there's no I in beacon, even though it's that protocol is called iBeacon. Basically, BLE is open to anyone, so there's different beacon modes available. Like with our beacons, we have a secure mode that doesn't deal with iBeacon at all.
Okay.
Nice things about secure mode is you can't spoof it, which if you think about an iBeacon, you could set 2 of them up in here. They could have the same proximity UUID, major and minor, and it would appear like there was only one beacon in the room.
So I take it iBeacon is just the Apple moniker for it, and it's really just a standard?
It is, yeah,
Okay.
that's a standard. It actually uses, if you want to get really technical, in the advertisement, there's data, right? And within iBeacon, Apple says put Apple's manufacturing ID in there. So that kind of makes that part their own. But there's no reason Blue Cats can't have their own manufacturer identifier and put their own data in the advertisement.
Cool.
Perfect. If you want to come grab your
Yes.
starter pack here.
Cool.
Very cool. My question, because I've already started thinking of an application, is if you have 2 different iBeacons, do they possibly conflict with each other in their signal? Like, for example, 2 doorways, and you said the proximity was down to a couple feet or something like that. And really, how accurate is it? Could you put 2 doorways side by side and know which doorway somebody walked through?
Yeah, we had that same exact question when we did the retail implementation. And you really need to, that's why I talked about testing out your experience, really deciding where the best placement is for those beacons. And that was something we had to test because we did have an overlap. We could detect that with somebody walking into the Bose store that they also picked up that they walked into the Nike store because they were so close, and we had to adjust that. The other thing too is you can work with the ranges. Make sure that you're detecting at the right range. That's why they have far, near, and immediate. The great thing that I've seen, and not all products support this, but the great thing that I've seen with Blue Cats is that you can really fine tune, and maybe Cody can talk more about that, but you can fine tune what that range is. So you can bring, for example, these are set up for immediate to be, almost like NFC, right against your device.
Okay.
You can extend that out or bring it in with this particular device. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Cody?
No, that's exactly right. You can change the transmit power, so it can range anywhere from touch to 60 meters, depending on your RF environment.
Very nice.
Starter pack?
One thing I wanted to mention about Starter Pack, and I apologize for the first 3 that we handed out. You'll need to email Cody in order to get instructions to sign up online. So
Cool.
When you get your Starter Pack, make sure you email the email address on the back.
Yeah, I apologize. We forgot to send the Starter Pack codes with them. Send me an email and I'll get you one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question?
My question is about the battery life of a mobile phone when you use the SDK, and is it the best practices in terms of which setting need to be used for the battery consumption? Because I heard for iBeacon, some application can actually consume lots of battery on the phone, not actually on the beacon itself.
Can you clarify, you were talking about just Android or iOS and Android?
iOS mainly.
Yeah, we have seen in Android especially that there are some battery issues depending on vendor, meaning beacon vendor, SDK. With Android especially, you can be very irresponsible with people's battery. If you turn on scanning, which is kind of a BLE thing, if you turn on scanning and leave it on infinitely, then your battery is going to drain quickly. I mean, we've seen running a few other SDKs and even ours during testing that phones actually warm up to the touch. It's definitely something that every manufacturer or vendor should go through rigorously in terms of testing before SDKs get released.
Okay. Is that anywhere you can get the best practices on?
Yeah, so that's kind of a service that we provide, is that we go through all that for you. So when you use our SDK, you're just saying, start doing what you do, which is you know, in terms of what we've derived from all of our testing, what kind of algorithm scanning patterns do we need to use to optimally range the most beacons while still conserving everyone's battery.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Did you already get a? Okay. Did you already get a starter pack?
Question?
Okay. I'd like to know if we use the Blue Cats SDK, how we can administrate the beacons, only with your console or?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have in addition to the web app, we also have a iOS app and an Android app that you can use to manage the beacons. And up until now, we still haven't made it public that you could, I shouldn't say up until now. It's still not public that you could do it from your own app, although we do have a few customers using that. As people email in, then we're giving people extra access, but we're only doing it for limited customers at this point.
Okay, and another question. How many time is the battery of the beacon?
Yes, so in terms of the beacons, these are, the version that we have today has 2 AA batteries in it, and they can last from about 1 year to 7 years. Typically on, like as an iBeacon, we've seen about 2.5 years on a decent set of AA batteries. The difference is iBeacon says that it's going to send at a 100 millisecond add interval. It's a little faster than probably necessary for most applications, but it's a good number to quote on. If you look at a lot of the battery announcements or spec sheets, some of them say, just make sure you read fine print. If it has a star at the bottom and it says, if it's only on 10 minutes a day, then be a little leery of that. That's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Do you want a starter pack?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Is Salesforce actively pushing beacon solutions? I mean, or is this just kind of a one-off example?
Yeah, so this is just an example. I mean, as Salesforce Services, we did an implementation for a customer with iBeacons. And just like with anything over here in the Internet of Things area, we work with a lot of partners for the applications that we deliver, for the needs of our clients. So, you know, we're not actively pushing this technology, but we're showing you an example of how you can utilize this technology for your company and for your use case.
Gotcha. But you do have customers that come to Salesforce that are actually asking for something like this?
Absolutely, yes. So we have customers, you know, particularly in the retail space so far, but like I said before, you know, we've looked at life sciences and manufacturing and other companies that we're talking to about this technology where they want location services where, you know, location services weren't available before. You know, whether it's in remote locations of the world or whether it's in deep within a building or things like that. But yes, we do have companies that we are currently talking to about this technology.
And do you have a partner program? Is that what I heard for this?
We don't have a partner program specifically for this, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.